Now, all the backlash, all the controversy surrounding this film, man, it's probably one of the most controversial films that I have heard in a while. What is up, guys and Disney fans? Welcome back to my channel. This is OCD Movie Reviews. My name is Olin the Brain Cat, and finally, the most controversial movie that's coming out this year has finally arrived. A lot of people are mixed about this film, but what do I think of it? Let's find out. Today I'm going to review the latest Disney live-action film, and that film is Snow White. This movie is directed by Marc Webb, who directed 500 Days of Summer and the Amazing Spider-Man movies, and this movie stars Rachel Zegler and Gadot. A princess named Snow White joins forces with the 7 dwarfs to liberate her kingdom from her cruel stepmother, the evil queen. Now, all the backlash, all the controversy surrounding this film, man, it's probably one of the most controversial films that I have heard in a while. A lot of backlash is surrounding this film, from Rachel Zegler being casted as Snow White, what she said about the original film, Gal Gadot as the evil queen, the dwarf stuff, the entire plot being completely different from the original film. A lot of people are tearing this film apart. With me, on the other hand, I can see where people are coming from, but this is also coming from the guy that hasn't grown up with the original Snow White movie, but I would say the original Snow White movie, Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs, is a Disney classic. It's a great Disney film, but I just haven't grown up with it as much, so I wasn't as backlash as a lot of people were saying, but I would admit the trailers of the movie did not impress me. I was not that excited for this movie, to be completely honest with you, even though there are some Disney live-action films that I do enjoy. But I would agree with people that I feel like these Disney live-action films should really stop. Disney should just go back doing original films again. I just feel like Disney should come back up being Disney in general. But of course, since these live-action films are making a lot of money, this is what we're getting now. But I do love Rachel Zegler. I loved her ever since West Side Story, and I thought she was good in Shazam! Fury of the Gods, and I really loved her in The Hunger Games: The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. She is a great actress and also a really good singer. And I was kind of rooting for her to be at least the best part about this movie, but from the trailers of this movie, yeah, I just was not too pumped about this film. But normally when it comes to a lot of films, I went into films with an open mind, expecting to be at least good or at least okay. With this movie, I gave this movie as much chance as possible. What are my thoughts on this Snow White adaptation? I would say this. This movie is not as bad as a lot of people make it out to be. Is it a good movie though? Not really. This movie has a lot of problems. But is this like the worst Disney live-action film? Absolutely not. I would probably rather watch this film than the 2022's Pinocchio or the 2019's Lion King movie. Honestly, I'd rather watch this. I know, some people think I'm crazy, but honestly, this movie is not bad. It's just, But it definitely has some positives, you know, there are some things that saved this movie. So let's talk about the positives of the film, and I would say absolutely my biggest positive when it comes to this adaptation is absolutely Rachel Zegler as Snow White. She is definitely the best thing about this movie. Right when she was casted as Snow White, everyone's going crazy around this casting. To me, I was rooting for Rachel Zegler because I think she is very talented and I thought she's a really good actress. Yes, what she said about the original Snow White, I would agree, it's stupid what she said. But I still gave it a chance, and she is definitely the best part about this movie. She is great as Snow White, and I would say her voice in this film, you can tell there's a reason why they casted her, because she is very talented. She has a great singing voice. Her musical moments, they're great in the film. You can tell that Rachel Zegler is having fun being Snow White, and I gotta appreciate that about her. It's definitely not her best performance she's ever done. I still think Maria from West Side Story will always be her best performance, but I still think she did a pretty solid job as Snow White. And I would say really, the first half of this film, I would say the first 30 minutes of the film, it was not bad. It wasn't a bad setup in my personal opinion. It's basically the original Snow White, but just much more expanded and trying to give much more of a plot around. And look, it's not great, but it wasn't a bad start. And I would say there is one moment in this movie, I would say it felt like Disney for me. It's like a different director or writer just came in and it's like, okay, let's try and make this one moment as Disney as possible. There is a musical sequence in the film where I'm like, okay, this feels like Disney. And I was impressed. I think it's probably one of my favorite aspects of the film. And I would say the demographic of this film is definitely harmless. I think this film would be great for little kids. I think little girls will absolutely enjoy this movie. Literally after the credits came along with this movie, these little girls were jumping around happy. They enjoyed this movie, so this movie at least has its demographic. But just because I say all these positives, guys, does not mean that I don't think this movie is bad. I did say this movie's not as bad as people were making it out to be, but it does not mean it's not a bad film, which it is. But it's not terrible, you know? It's one of those bad movies that I kind of accepted that it wasn't as bad, but it's still a movie that has a lot of issues surrounding it. Let's talk about Gal Gadot as the evil queen. This took me a while, especially now throughout the film. It is official and we can all agree Gal Gadot is not that great of an actress, and it really shows that in this movie as the evil queen because, oh my god, she is hysterical in this film. Right when she's even casted as the evil queen, I already knew this was a miscast because honestly, I just do not see Gal Gadot as this character, and it shows that in this film. It's like she doesn't really try throughout the film. She acts very bland in this film, and there is like a musical sequence that she performed in the film that is cringy as fuck. It is one of those moments where I'm like, Disney, what are you doing? So yes, Gal Gadot as the evil queen, definitely a step down. This is definitely one of her worst performances that I have ever seen her in. Now let's also talk about the 7 dwarfs in this film because, oh my god. I'll give this, the CGI, at least you get used to it, but my god, the CGI on these dwarfs are terrifying in this film, like really bad in this film. I watched this on the biggest screen possible. Big mistake, because there are moments when it comes to the CGI of the dwarfs where I'm just like, fuck me, this is terrifying. But it's not just the CGI that I did not like about the dwarfs in the film. I just felt like the dwarfs felt very unexplored in the film. If there are kids who have not seen the original Snow White movie, they want to get to know these dwarfs. But they really rushed it, thinking, oh yeah, we've seen the original film, so we know who they are, we know the names. But still, we want to still get a bit of character development with the dwarfs in the film. I felt like it's just very rushed in the film. The only dwarf that actually has the most character development, which I was really surprised, is actually Dopey in the film. But other than that, the other dwarfs in the film, even Grumpy, they're just very underused in the film. And also, do you remember when they announced that they're not going to put dwarfs in the movie and they're going to use these bandits instead? We think they're not going to be in this movie. Nah, they're still in this movie. These bandits in this movie, I am not joking, guys. These are some of the most unnecessary characters that I have ever seen in a movie. We spent 15 minutes of these bandits. We got away from the Snow White stuff, and then we go with Snow White with these bandits for a little bit. And speaking of underused characters like the dwarfs, these bandits are worse. No character development whatsoever. They're just basically there in the film. Like, literally, they do not need to be in this movie at all. Seriously, if they're not in this movie wouldn't make any difference whatsoever. Also, the love interest of Snow White in this movie, whose name is Jonathan, I'm sorry, the actor who played him is so wooden in this film. There is literally not much emotion when it comes to this character, and of course I don't buy the romance between Jonathan and Snow White because I just felt like the chemistry just felt so rushed and so underutilized. I think everyone outside of Rachel Zegler is just bad in this movie when it comes to the acting. But what about the overall story though? To me, it's a complete mess. Yes, this film goes through the original tropes from the original Snow White movie, but also with the bandit subplot, and also Snow White trying to basically save her kingdom. This movie is a complete mess when it comes to the story of the film. It's like the film doesn't know what it wants to be. Is it trying to be a remake of the original Snow White? Is it trying to do something a little bit different and new? You can really tell how choppy the story is within this film. And of course, let's talk about the music as well in this film. Because this film took 3 original musical sequences from the original film, but this film also has original songs. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I do not buy the original songs in the film. Waiting on a Wish is actually an okay song. I'll give that song a pass, and I thought Rachel Zegler performed that song beautifully. But there are so many original songs in the movie that are not just written terribly, but performed really bad in this film. Like, it's gone from like Beauty and the Beast bad when it comes to the music in the film. The live action Beauty and the Beast I'm talking about, not the original. Where the singing just felt very, very auto-tuned. It's like the actor did not even sing the song. It's like a completely different singer is singing these songs. That's what it felt like. Like, some of the music I'm just like, oh my god, really? This is the music you're going for? And even some of the original songs I feel like they ruined. Like Hi Ho, they had some new things. And I'm just like, no, this is not Hi Ho. This is not the Hi Ho I remember. So the story is messy. The acting throughout the most part is bad, except for Rachel Zegler. The visual effects in this movie is bad. It's definitely a movie that's completely all over the place when it comes to it. But I kind of accept this movie for being bad because here's the thing. It's not terrible. It's not a disaster. It's not the complete shit that came out this year. It's not the worst movie of the year. Because at least the movie is harmless for kids. The movie knows its demographic. Little kids will absolutely love this movie. So I kind of accept it, you know? I kind of accept the demographic. But it just does not change the fact that this is definitely in below of the Disney live action remakes. And after this movie, I'm going to be honest with you, even though I am excited for Lilo and Stitch, I feel like these Disney live action movies should stop. They should really stop, guys. Because not only the fan service is going to keep hating on it, it's just, we don't need them. We have the original films. They're beloved. They are loved by children everywhere. Like, even to this day, I feel like children will love the original films more than remakes. Yes, it's kind of cool to see these movies on the big screen sometimes. There are some great Disney live action films. But I would agree with people, we do not need these live action films anymore. So overall, guys, Snow White 2025 is not a terrible movie. It's not an atrocity. It's not a disaster. It had its moments, and I think Rachel Zegler is definitely the best part about this movie. She is great in the film, but this is definitely in the category of probably my least favorite Disney live action films. The rest of the acting is not that great. Gal Gadot is terrible as the Evil Queen. Jonathan, the love interest, is not great in the film. These bandits just felt like some of the most unnecessary characters I've seen, and the dwarves look absolutely terribly CGI and just really unutilized. The story is definitely all over the place. It's trying to be something different, which I do appreciate it, but it just did not work as much for me. But it's harmless for kids. I would say kids will absolutely enjoy this movie for what it is, and I feel like the film knows its demographic. So it's not a disaster. It's not a film that I'm completely mad about. You know, I've seen worse films than this. But definitely Snow White is definitely going to be one of those Disney live action films that I would absolutely forget. So I'm going to give this film 2 rating systems because for the demographic, for little kids, absolutely go see this film at a matinee price. But for adults, I would suggest just go skip this movie. So guys, that is my review for 2025 Snow White. Let me know what you think of this movie in the comments below. Do you like the film, hate the film, or you thought it's okay? Just let me know in the comments below. And what is your favorite Disney film of all time? Let me know that also in the comments below. Make sure you guys follow me on social media links down below. Keep contact with me. And make sure you guys subscribe to my channel now for my latest movie reviews and other movie related content. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a nice day.